we have the one and only Brett Kunkle, president and founder of Maven. Brett, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great because I get a chance to talk with you two.
Oh,
Oh, that's
stop,
so sweet.
Stop.
It's made my month right here.
Well, this is the second time in a month for you and I, and we don't get to do this very often, so I'm glad we can do it too. We were both at CIA in Albuquerque about 3 weeks ago, and that was a lot of fun, and hanging out afterwards as we used to do so frequently and just can't do so much anymore. So it's good to see you, Brett. By the way, one of the strangest questions that people ever asked of us was, are you two related? Because it's Koukl and, like
That comes up a
Kunkle.
lot.
And,
Yeah.
and
actually,
to me, it makes no sense at all. But it's totally different spelling. So
Yeah.
maybe
Well, they wouldn't even ask. They would assume. I would have people come up to me and go, "Hey, what's it like working for your father?" Or things like that.
And then you say, you mean grandfather.
I would say, "He's not my dad. He's my grandpa."
Yeah, thank you. Oh, I had forgotten that line, but yeah, but they wouldn't. It's like, wait a minute, it's a different name. It just starts with K and it has a, L to E, whatever.
Yeah.
Actually, you have an E and I don't at the end. So in any event, I'm trying to figure out the first time we actually met, and what comes to mind is our meeting in Biola with Melinda. But I think there was a time before that we met. In Colorado.
We had met briefly because when I was a youth pastor in Colorado, you were doing a tactics seminar at a church in Colorado Springs, and so I got high schoolers from my youth ministry, probably 15 or so of them, and took them down. I said, you guys got to get this kind of training, and so that was before I ever joined Stand to Reason. Was taking advantage of the STR resources out there for even my own youth.
By the way, how did you happen to know about STR at that time? Was that? I think that was even before the book came out in 2009.
Yeah, I don't remember when the first time I got in touch with STR. I know it was during my youth ministry days. It was probably because I was doing preparation for a message or something, and came across the resource. And I remember even taking, this is before that event in Colorado Springs, when I was a junior high pastor in Southern California. I took a couple of my junior hires to the debate that you did at Chapman University with Marv Meyer.
Oh, no kidding.
And so I brought a couple of my students there. The debate was on truth.
Is truth true? That's right.
Yeah, is truth true? And you graciously demolished Marv Meyer for my junior hires to see, and they were just pumped on the drive home. But so I had been taking advantage of using STR resources during my youth ministry days.
Wow.
And then you showed up at Biola. You arranged a meeting with Melinda and I remember you kind of made a pitch. I'm your guy. You ought to hire me. And we believed you. And so we did. And it took us, 15 years to get rid of you finally. But,
well, yeah, you didn't believe me at first. You said, well, we might believe this guy. You said, hang out with us for a little while. And so I started volunteering at the office week in and week out. And I thought maybe this is a ploy just to get free labor.
Yeah, that's what it was.
I called you on unpaid staff. Amy went through that stage, right. And so did Alan for a number of years.
No,
I
did.
Alan did his too. He's pointing to himself.
I didn't.
Great
go
way
through
to
that.
vet people.
Yeah, that's right. But we got a question. We're celebrating the 30th anniversary here, and so we're reaching out to friends and colleagues of STR
and others,
and
like yourself,
and others, and so here's a question we have for you. What's the most important thing that you learned from Stand to Reason or Greg Koukl?
Yeah, well, I've been thinking about that question, and I realize there's not one thing I could hone in on and say this is the most important thing. And actually, I think this was the beauty of my time there is I learned so much. I think I really learned to become much more well-rounded in not only as a professional, but just as a follower of Jesus. I mean, I started thinking about all the different things that I learned And I'll just tick off some of those things. One thing that we constantly talked about, and Greg would talk about at STR, was focusing on faithfulness over the results. And he would say that a ton. And it just, that was a huge lesson, that my job is to be faithful, and I leave the results to the Lord. Let the Spirit do His work. But I keep being faithful, even if I don't see some of that fruit. That's my task, and so just put your head down and be faithful. I think the whole idea of translating. I kind of starting out in the local church. My passion is for equipping the local church. I think that's God's plan A.
Yeah.
And so translating the smart guys and working hard at translating well is something I learned. Getting good at your craft. I think that's one thing that professionalism I learned from Greg, of don't just think about all the knowledge aspects. And of course we focused on that a ton, but it was like, hey, you've got a craft here. You've got this skill that needs to be developed. It's just not just a natural gifting and that's it. It's like any skill that needs to be honed, and we would work hard together to develop that and give each other feedback. I think a couple other lessons were just the weekly prayer in our staff meetings, that we would pray week in and week out, and we had a list and we'd go through it, and just a faithfulness to prayer. And then the other thing I would say is just the integrity, I think. And I see this in Greg. He's a man of integrity. That's huge, particularly in this day and age when we just see the faithlessness of many Christian leaders, and just knowing, kind of getting a peek behind the curtain in the background of the different people's lives at STR, knowing that these are folks of integrity, and that was led. They were led by a great example in Greg. And so I just started thinking about all of these things together. There's a cluster of things, and I just couldn't pick out one. There were a whole bunch of things that have been, I think, real formative for me.
Well, that's pretty sweet. I was expecting.
I know. I'm kind of speachless. It's very sweet.
I was expecting to list 5 things, and they were all going to be jokes, And
no, I hope I saved a little bit of time here. I do have one last thing to say.
No. That's very sweet. And I think, Brett, a lot of us would echo those same ideas, and I think you articulated that really well. Okay, so those are some of the most important things you've learned. In a few, like in 2 minutes, you got a story that you want to share, and keep it PG or G-rated.
Okay.
A story about Greg or Stand to Reason.
Oh yeah, so I'm a big prankster. I grew up in a prankster family, and Greg's not a big prankster. And but there was one time at the office where, I had bought these. They were these fake parking tickets, and they're very sarcastic. I mean, at first glance, you look at it and you're like, "Oh no, I got a parking ticket." But then when you read it, it's like, you parked in the wrong space, dummy, or something like that. And so I thought, it'd be great to put one of these on Greg's car at the office. So I put it on his car and I filled it out, and then he left after our staff meeting. He left before I did, and I was sitting in the office, and I heard the phone ring, and someone picked it up and said, "Hey, Melinda, it's Greg." And so then I hear Melinda get on the phone, and she's like, "Oh, what happened? Oh no! Oh wow! What?" And Greg had gotten the ticket. He didn't think it was a real ticket. He thought somebody in the complex was upset with him for where he had parked. And so he was all upset about it, and had to call and vent on Melinda. And so then I peeked in and I said, "Oh, Melinda, is he talking about the parking ticket?" She said, "Yeah." I go, "That was me." And then Melinda gave me this mean look.
Oh no!
Like you shouldn't do that, And
she's been trying to get rid of you ever since.
She
That's
pranked,
right.
She pranked me. We don't have time to tell, but she pranked me really good once on April 1st, and they caught me totally by surprise. But that's another issue. So it's like the caught the pot calling the kettle black there. So anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I realized, that I had to really start. I just using kid gloves with Greg when it came to jokes.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? One of the things that stands out for me, for you, Brett, in our long relationship. I mean, how many years were you actually a part of Stand to Reason formally?
14 years.
14 years. Okay, it's a long time,
Yeah.
and I'm so thrilled to see how you've moved beyond Stand to Reason and done what you've done. But there was a time where, I don't know, it was about 8 years ago now, when we just had a really intense powwow about where Stand to Reason was going, and this is right when Reality, which was then called Rethink, was starting. And I actually was very complacent. My idea was, everything's going okay, let's not rock the boat, And you're a guy with a tremendous amount of energy and lots of ideas and wants to move in new areas, especially passing the baton to the next generation. And it was like, oh, come on, let's just let things go. I'm just feeling my age or whatever. I don't know. I'm slowing down. And that time was such a formative time for the organization because of your ideas, your energy, your persistence. Starting, of course, Rethink, that turned to Reality, which is still a magnificent kind of feather in our cap at Stand to Reason. That was your brainchild, really, and your energy that went into really getting it off the ground, even without me being that thrilled about it at first. But then we had to rethink things, and we had meetings here, and I think this is when we came up with our vision, courage for every Christian, clear thinking for every challenge, confidence for every Christian. I know it so well. Confidence for every Christian, clear thinking for every challenge, and courage and grace for every encounter. And that your energy and your forward thinking really was a great help to Stand to Reason, and took us in a place that I would never have taken us. And now I think that I still have some of that momentum in my blood as a result of that, even though you've been gone for a number of years doing Maven. So I just want to let you know how much I appreciate that about you, Brett.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. It's just a privilege to be partners with all my friends at STR, all the folks that are doing what we're doing to contribute to this work together, to cheerlead each other on, and it's about God's kingdom work moving forward. So I was glad to make the contribution that I did there,
which was significant too. Thanks, Brett.
Well, thanks for stopping by and celebrating with us and sharing a couple stories there. We really appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys, and glad to celebrate 30 years of STR's work. It's had a huge impact in my own life, so
Sweet.
Thankful to God for Greg and STR.